your ears and listen here.
Ichitacopata Melica Mystica, trim yourself of your daily fear.
Ichitacopata Melica Mystica.
Give us 5 stars and subscribe to us just
like
this.
Okay, so that's one sticky note down.
Oh, so sticky.
So
Stickiest note in town. It's got Jay's cummy wummies all over it.
Ichitacopata Melica Mystica. It's the cummiest rag in town. Push it over, but it won't fall down.
Ichitacopata Melica Stickia.
Just like this.
And welcome back.
Welcome back to another lunch break.
Welcome back to episode 15 of Beards and Sundries.
Oh my gosh.
Episode 15.
And 'tis the episode that's going to be fun today. My name is Jay. And you don't even have to be a virgin to summon me with a black flame candle.
And I'm Anthony, and I'll take thee away to my land of enchantment.
Ooh, right down in there. And I'm Joe, and what do you call him, Max? Yabos? And if you guys haven't guessed, today's sundry item is Hocus Pocus. That's right, Beardos.
Yes.
The long-awaited sequel to a true American classic film finally came out, and we did our research for you. We watched both of them, and we are going to cover both films today in the market.
So spoiler alert is in effect. If you haven't seen the first film, then, I mean, fuck you.
Yeah, you're ruined.
But
Yeah.
if you haven't seen the second film, since this is coming out roughly a week and a half after its release,
Are you even gay?
don't proceed. There are going to be spoilers. So, well, people have busy lives, Jay.
I have a busy life, and I've watched it twice.
They don't just sit around at the market stealing wine, watching movies.
We are still recovering from last week's episode.
That's right. It is a quick disclaimer because we're going to get right into it. So we're going to do the first film, the first part of our episode. We're going to give you guys a fun commercial since you love them so much. And then after the commercial break, we'll start discussing the second film. Now, if you're new to our show and you're wondering just what the hell a sundry is, it was probably way more relevant back then during the Salem witch trials in the 1690s because it comes from an old English word meaning odds and ends. Today it's used mainly in retail as a way to group together items that otherwise wouldn't even have their own group. So in our show, as three gay men with beards, we're going to use the term to group together the wide range of topics that we cover.
That was fantastic, Joe.
Wow, that is always so impressive. Nails it every single time.
I've never been more impressed. Nailed it in editing.
In editing.
I've never been hornier.
Yeah, Anthony is our true witch because he edits us to sound decent.
And also because I have a lot of books on witchcraft.
I'm also very similar to a witch because it rhymes with it.
And you definitely wouldn't pass the trial.
I would be burned at stake.
Well, and that's funny that you guys mentioned the witch trials because that's kind of the first one, kind of topic that I wanted to touch on was Salem itself. Now, these Salem witch trials, I'm going to quote some facts from an article that I found from the Smithsonian Magazine. So very smart.
Ooh, finally, you're citing a source that's reliable.
These Salem witch trials occurred in colonial Massachusetts between 1692 and 1693, which is very, very relevant because the opening scene in the first film takes place in 1693. So, topical.
Ooh.
Looks like more than 200 people were accused of practicing witchcraft, the devil's magic, and 20 were executed, which is odd because I thought it was a lot more than that. It was only 20?
The thing about, like, the Salem witch trials was just the hysteria around it, that, like, everyone was losing their fucking mind and it was localized hysteria, and that's why it's so infamous.
Well, and think about it, Joe.
Yeah.
20 people back then is a huge fraction compared
That's
to
true.
today. Because society
That's true.
was really really small back then. So 20 people is what, like 90%? I'm kidding. But
No,
still.
that was the entire
It's
town.
not-
That was the entire local women population.
Yeah, it was only the women, though. Women were witches.
And it also says here that a witchcraft craze rippled through Europe from the 1300s to the end of the 1600s. Tens of thousands of supposed witches in Europe, mostly women, were executed. So that's where a bulk of it took place. The Salem trials came on just as the European craze was winding down. That's kind of where Salem came into play, near the end.
So that means that the Sanderson sisters would make up over 10% of the witches. They're like 15% of the witches that were murdered
That's true.
in the Salem witch trial. And they got 3 real ones.
Good for them. Look, they got it right for once.
Yeah, exactly.
Mass hysteria paid off.
Which, you know, the beginning of that movie kind of sucks for the Sanderson sisters because they finally it opens on them sucking the life essence out of Max's, not Max, out of Thackeray's sister. What's her name?
Emily.
Emily, that's right. So it opens on them sucking the life essence out of Emily. And so finally they're young again and pretty, and then they get hanged right after that.
Also, so this movie was 1993, and my favorite part about it is how unchild-friendly the opening is.
Yes, and that brings me to our next topic that I want to talk about, and that is how the film came to be. So, it was actually the idea of one of the producers for the film. His name is David Kirshner. He and his young daughter one night were sitting outside, and his neighbor's black cat strayed by. Kirshner invented a tale about how the cat was once a boy who was changed into a feline 300 years ago by 3 witches, and that's kind of where it started from.
Huh.
Typical parents freaking out your kids and lying to them. My mother told me that I would wet the bed if I played with fire.
Well, you do it now anyways, even without playing with fire.
Who says I'm not playing with fire? I just use a candle and I'm like, oh, God, I kind of wet the bed now.
Your pubic hair doesn't count.
Ooh!
Thank you.
Little fresh ginger root in there.
Mango truly up the nose.
Hey.
So, as it started life as a script, it was written by Mick Garris. It was brought to Walt Disney Pictures in 1984. The working title for the project was Disney Halloween House, and it was much darker and scarier. Its protagonists were all 12-year-olds, and Steven Spielberg saw Disney as a competitor to Amblin in the family film market value at the time and refused to co-produce a film with his rival. So, a little bit of beef over that.
What?
Beef, it's what's for dinner. Dun, dun, dun.
Ooh. Not in this house. Quesadillas are for dinner.
I had chicky
Spooky quesadillas.
So as it went on, there were various rewrites made to the script to make the film more comedic, and it made 2 of its young protagonists into teenagers instead. Production was stalled several times until 1992, when Bette Midler expressed interest in the script, and the project immediately went forward because she's a queen. So Bette Midler, who plays the central antagonist of the film, Winifred Sanderson, which was originally written for Cloris Leachman, fun fact.
Ooh, that would have been a really interesting casting.
Did you ever see the Hansel and Gretel with Cloris Leachman, though, as the witch?
No.
No, but it sounds great.
She's a great witch.
Sounds like some film deja vu, if you ask me.
Oh, movie deja vu.
Ah, fuck.
Yeah, you can't even plug the right thing.
We should call our guest from last week and see if he's compared this to any other movie.
Thank God you're better at plugging me than you are other podcasts.
What happens in the break room leaves the break room too.
And goes to aisle 4 while I'm stealing wine.
I did like that they used actual Salem.
Yeah, that is very interesting, especially for 90s, like when they didn't really care that much.
Yeah, I go for authenticity, especially for Disney, because I feel like this is a project that could have been like a straight to VHS at the time. Ooh.
Yeah.
Type of project if it didn't turn out well.
And while I'm not trashing the movie because I also very much enjoy it, it doesn't feel as fake as Halloween Town.
Oh,
Well, those exterior shots of the town where he's riding his bike home from school and showing like the aerial shots of the house and everything, it really is a pretty movie because it's October in the fall in Massachusetts, so it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Halloween Town, you're right. Halloween Town feels extremely fake.
I like the movie. It's cutely nostalgic for me.
It's not a bad movie.
But yeah, it's like super duper set, fake, everything.
Although it got a lot more sequels than Hocus Pocus did.
Yes, it did. Isn't there like 4 or 5?
Because it was a relatively easy concept and you could do a lot with little.
Well, and I mean, you know, Hocus Pocus, I mean, God, how do you top it?
I think Hocus Pocus struggled for a while because Sarah Jessica Parker got pretty popular off Sex and the City after that.
Oh. I wonder what the critical reception was like to it.
Well, it's funny you mentioned that, Anthony, because the film was released in the United States on July 16th, 1993. It received mixed reviews from film critics at the time of its release. It wasn't really a critical or commercial success. It probably lost, it says, it possibly lost Disney around $16.5 million during its theatrical run. But it was kept alive by a lot of annual airings on the Disney Channel and ABC Family all throughout the month of October. It's been since rediscovered by audiences, resulting in a yearly spike in home video sales of the film every Halloween season. And the annual celebration of Halloween has helped to make this film a true cult classic, which I agree with that.
I remember watching it as a kid and loving it from day one.
Yeah, the first time I ever saw it, I thought it was great.
Anything Halloween themed and anything like, well, horror, but also witchy stuff, like any type of witch movies or like anything like that, I was and am still into.
Absolutely.
Well, and I also loved Bette Midler, which I didn't understand that I loved her. And also it's another sign as a child of how much of a gay I was because I was obsessed with her character. But I also loved Mary's character. I loved Kathy Najimy. She nails the part so much.
The comedy she brings.
And when she brings out her vacuum cleaner to take off, like I just always love that scene.
Kathy Najimy is such a great character actor because if you had told me, like a younger me, that it's Kathy Najimy was both Mary and then also what was her character's name in Sister Act?
Sister Mary?
Sister Mary Bernard?
But like I just never connected those two up until recently.
Well, in her habit, it's almost a little hard to recognize at first until you're kind of a little bit older and you're like, oh, how did I miss that? And I mean,
it's like going back and watching The Faculty and realizing how fucking star-studded that cast is.
Yes.
Stacked.
Yeah.
I love watching older movies that I remember as a kid coming back and going, oh my god, this is fucking star-studded.
Yeah. I was like, you got John fucking Stewart to play a role in this. Famke Janssen's in it. Elijah Wood. Claire Duvall.
Well, what is that old 1988 movie? High Spirits. Have you ever seen High Spirit? Or High Spirits?
No, I've never heard of it.
Oh my gosh. It has a Liam Neeson in it. And I think that was my first gay sexual awakening movie because at one point he's a ghost.
Was to
And he's
Liam Neeson?
Yes, he's like in the shower, shirtless, and he's very attractive in that scene.
I'm gonna have to like watch this because I'm not judging you. I would never judge you
No.
for their
Rightfully so.
Yeah, I gotta check this out.
Hold on. Let me list the cast really quick. It has Peter O'Toole, Steve Guttenberg, Liam Neeson, Beverly D'Angelo, Jennifer Tilly, Peter Gallagher. But it's a tacky movie, but it's funny.
Jay, I don't know.
I don't know.
That's a red flag.
He's an ugly ghost.
Yeah, I'm not seeing it, Jay.
Listen.
I'm not seeing it, Jay. I really don't see it.
Listen, whenever
he looks like clearly have put makeup on him to make him look like a ghost, and he has these mutton chops for days. And
yeah,
his hair looks like he belongs in the band Oasis.
Yeah.
Let me be clear. You get a little soft spot for him in the film, even though he has a really bad anger issue, but I can change him.
I got to tell you right now, I've got a little soft spot for him looking at these pictures.
I do recommend the movie at least once, just to give it a try.
And I'm not pointing to my heart, weirdos. I'm pointing at my flaccid member.
Penis. You can say penis. We say a lot of curse words on this podcast.
We've said a lot worse.
And my
yeah.
teeny weeny peeny.
Shut up. Anyways, we've gotten off on a tangent. Clearly, we've gotten off on a tangent.
No way.
What were we talking about before we started talking about this?
Speaking of, last week's episode is the one that I've gotten the most emails from saying that it's the most amazing, chaotic experience.
It really is. There's a lot going on in that episode.
There's so much going on.
And there was so much more. Like I still cut out like almost an hour of content.
If we ever get a Patreon up and running, we might just release that content to you guys so you can sift through the chaos yourselves. And it's funny that you talk about Mary in the film because she really was a great comic relief. That whole part where the way they track the kids through Salem is through Mary's enhanced sense of smell. So she's smelling the children because that's one of her abilities. And at one point they're behind this restaurant and she's like, instead of saying, I smell children, she says, I smell scrod. And isn't she like, it's a fish entree and you put a little breadcrumbs on it and she's just her mumbling and it's so funny because I feel like, I don't know if it was scripted or not, but if not, that was some great improv.
Those two, though, like Sarah Jessica Parker and Kathy and Jimmy's background parts of just
absolutely
they're
wonderful.
Mumbling anytime Winifred talks. It's just like perfect.
It's their mannerisms and how like different they are, but like how they sort of I don't know. It really is perfect. They complement Winifred so well.
My favorite part about Sarah herself is she gives off the biggest, youngest sister energy, right? So even though Winifred has disdain for both of them at different times, whenever it comes down to it, she and Mary always team up on Sarah. Like the scene where they come to the Black River because they think it's a deadly river, but it's actually just a blacktop road. And they like look at each other real quick and they push her and she goes, and then she's like, "'Tis firm."
You know, I remember as a kid, I never understood whenever they said they were going to eat children because I was like, wait, what do they mean? I don't see them eating them. I had to grow up before I realized that they were sucking the souls out of them.
Right. Well, and I think that's a little bit more child friendly than, cooking a child. Which, I mean, you still hear the story of Hansel and Gretel when you're growing up.
Well, they had to take the Jeffrey Dahmer out of Winifred.
Before we go on to the next topic, I would like to talk about one more scene, and that is the scene where they find who they think is the devil because it's an older man who is pretending to be the devil to lure trick-or-treaters to his house to get candy, right? So they're like, "Oh my God, master!" And they park their brooms, which then get stolen by 3 little girls who are dressed like them, ironically.
I love that.
And then they go inside the house and they think it's the devil and he's all into it because he's getting attention from 3 attractive ladies. And so then Mary sits down and she's watching TV and enticed by the remote control. And then she's watching that one commercial where the baby's in the walker running around chasing the cat, I think. And she's like,
and Winifred goes into the kitchen and she's like, the torture chamber.
A torture chamber. She picks up like the meat tenderizer. So then Sarah starts dancing with the devil in the living room, slow dancing. And then his wife comes out of the bathroom and she's like, and then she sees him dancing and she's like, what the hell is this? And then so she starts,
okay, party's over.
Proceeding to walk around, kicking them out of the house. Okay, party's over.
Get out of my house, take your clock bars, and get out of my house.
They team up and they try to intimidate her and they're like, make us. And then she goes,
Ralph! Sick 'em!
And then it zooms over and there's this tiny little black terrier and he jumps up from his bed and chases them out of the house.
And he's wearing devil wings.
Fun fact about that little dog, that's Kathy Najimy's dog in real life.
Oh yeah, that's cute.
Good fake reaction, Jay.
Yeah, Joe told us that beforehand for once.
Oh.
Yeah, Joe ruined it.
So then we think about Sarah and her kind of bimbo-y kind of lifestyle because she actually slept with Winifred's boyfriend at the time, Billy Butcherson, which brings me to our next topic, the actor himself, Doug Jones. Now, if you guys are unfamiliar, Doug Jones is known in the film industry as being someone who is just...
If you have seen a movie monster that is played by a person and that they seem skinny and lanky and able to move their body in certain weird ways, you've seen Doug Jones. He is an incredible actor. He played Abe Sapien in the first two Hellboys. He played the creature in the shape of water. He played the Pale Man in Pan's Labyrinth.
Yep.
Yeah, and the list goes on and on.
I just have to think about how many hours and hours he sat in the chair preparing for all this.
It is also really telling to find out that Doug Jones played Billy Butcherson and then reprised his role as Billy Butcherson 29 years later. 29 years later. God, I'm old.
My favorite thing, though, from him is his opening line in Hocus Pocus when he's like, "Winch, trollop, you buck-toothed, mop-riding firefly from hell."
She's like, "Ah!"
So I also wondered about that scene because that happens when they go back to the graveyard, right?
Yes.
So why was Billy Butcherson compelled to chase these kids down if he didn't want to do it in the first place? Like, was his mouth being bound part of the spell, and that's how they had control over him?
They don't go back. No, it's when they first go to the cemetery, because Binks is like, "Oh, let's go to this hallowed land. They can't set foot there." And then she conjures him out of the ground to chase them.
Right. To chase them. That's what I'm saying, is that why did he chase them in the first place if he didn't want to help the Sanderson sisters? Was his mouth being sewn shut part of the spell that kept him under their power?
Because didn't Max have a knife and he attacked him to get the knife so he could cut his mouth open? Wasn't that the point?
Yeah, so he ends up getting Max's knife, cuts his mouth open, and then after that he switches sides immediately.
Yeah, he cuts his mouth open and he's like, "Hell yeah."
He said, "Bitch!"
Mop riding firefly from hell.
I think he was compelled to, I don't know, was he supposed to chase them so he could be put back to rest?
No. I'm proposing that he did this out of because he was compelled to do so because part of the spell.
She sewed his mouth shut herself so he couldn't tell his secrets in the grave.
So that's what I'm saying is that the mouth being sewn shut is what gave Winifred power over him, and once he was able to cut his mouth open, he had free will again.
I don't know.
I see where you're coming from. I never thought of that, though.
I don't know. What do you guys think? Let us know. So it's fun that we're talking about his mouth and the knife cutting it open, because here's a fun fact of trivia for you guys. Doug Jones revealed that the mods coming out of his mouth after his mouth are cut open aren't CGI.
Mm-mm.
Those are real moths.
Real moth, baby.
This man is so committed to his craft that they created what they called a mouth rig. This was a latex pocket attached to dentures that blocked off his throat to make the mouths come out. There was a small hole in the very back of the pocket so that Doug could cough some air through it. An animal wrangler would place several moths in the pocket with tweezers, and then the stitches would be glued shut, and they would run out of frame so that they could film the scene as fast as possible. Which, I read this and I was like, ugh! Oh, what an artist, because I could never.
I mean, that's cool. That's very creative.
Even if there's a little hole back there for him to breathe, that means he's getting moth scales in his mouth. Yeah.
So the next topic I have for us is the absolutely iconic scene at Town Hall, the musical scene.
I put a spell on you.
Now, this is a scene where the witches and Billy have tracked the children to a Halloween party at Town Hall. They have gone to this party because that's where their parents are, and they're trying to alert them and the townspeople and help save everybody, I think. So they get there, they interrupt the band, they're like, "Everyone, your children aren't safe." So then all the parents are like, what the fuck did you just say? They all freak out. And then he's like, "The Sanderson sisters, they're actually real, they're here." And he points them out, and the initial shock is kind of like, oh. And then Winifred goes, "Thank you, Max, for that glorious introduction." And then all the crowd is like,
"For that marvelous introduction, I put a spell on you."
Up until recently, I always said, I'll put a spell on you. And then I realized that it's I put a spell on you.
Oh, really?
It's been 300 years, right down to today. And the witch is back. And there's hell to pay.
So then the crowd's like, oh, hell yeah. And the band kicks up and they're like, it's...
We're fucking crazy.
And then it turns into an actual spell where at the end she's doing some incantations and then she puts them all under a spell and she's like, dance, dance, dance until you die. So then everyone's under a dancing spell and the kids leave the party because they realize the effort was futile and they just move on with their adventure. And then all the adults in Salem that are at this party just keep on going. And it's a fun little off-the-cuff scene at the end because after they've defeated the witches, the spell is also defeated. So it shows all the adults like coming to at 7 a.m. and they all start stumbling out of town hall and the parents are like worn out, all their makeup's terrible, and the mom's like woo-hoo-hoo. And they're like, this is definitely more crazy than LA or something like that, and she's like yeah, and then it cuts off and it's the perfect ending.
I think what I love most is her announcement of it. She's like, isn't it obvious? And she's like, Madonna.
Well, that's funny. A little quick side tangent about the costumes. You see his parents in normal street clothes at the beginning of the movie because it's Halloween Eve and they want him to take his sister trick-or-treating. He's got a couple quick costume changes. His younger sister, Danny, who's played by Thora Birch, has one costume the entire film.
They actually spent half of the film's budget to design a witch hat that would fit on her forehead.
Thora, sweetie, if you're listening, I'm so sorry.
If you and Christina Ricci come to my house and kill me, I mean, that's always how I plan to go anyways.
Brief side note, when Max gets home from school after he's been through the graveyard riding his bike, got his shoe stolen, all that shit, he walks in the house and the dad's like, how was school? And he's like, it sucked. And the dad's like, hey, language. And in my head, even as a child, I was like...
Because back then, you didn't say that word.
Yeah. I just, even now, I'm like, tee-hee-hee, that's so funny. Fuck.
Fuck, fuckity, fuck.
Fuckity, fuck.
Fuck, I'll put a fuck on you.
And now you're fucked. So fucked.
That's how Anthony got all his hookups in the past. He was like, I'll put a fuck on you.
That's how I get all my hookups now.
Joe's still under the spell.
So one of their plans they devise is to lure them to the high school because they know that there's a pottery kiln in the art studio, and they say, well, they're witches, we'll burn them.
How cliche.
So they lure them there. Max is on the intercom in the principal's office, luring them into the kiln, and they go in there because there's a French tape playing just like phrases over and over again. They think it's a child, so they run in there, and then they shut the kiln behind them, and they close it, and they activate it, and then they actually do burn, so they think that they've won, and then they run out and celebrate, and then the witch's curse is keeping them alive. They live, and they come back to life in the kiln.
How on earth in these movies are these kids breaking into the school so often?
I don't know.
That's always my question.
I always wonder about that.
Well, I forgot to lock the door.
But I do understand the need to include a school in a children's film.
Yes, for sure.
Because it is relatable. And you are...
It's fucking all we relate to.
Yeah.
I'll also say that this was Massachusetts in the early 90s. They probably had, maybe a key lock.
I mean, if I wanted to break into the high school when I was in high school, I could probably have done it. But even in my small town, they had a security system.
So in 1993, they probably had some guy named Clem who was supposed to walk the grounds once an hour, and he probably left the doors unlocked.
Well, so security systems have existed for a long, long time, Joe. A very long time. In fact, if you look on our wall outside your office, there is a number pad that is old as shit. And that's from our old security system. And it was all analog.
Well, they actually opened Winifred's spell book and recited the spell to unlock the doors at Salem High School.
Oh, I thought you were talking about... I thought you were talking about after they kill them, when they're up in Max's room and they open the spell book because they're trying to find a spell to turn Thackeray... to undo the magic that's on Thackeray. And then that's when the beam goes off through the...
They go back to the house because they thought they've won. So they think they can use the spell book to reverse the spell on Thackeray because they can't figure out why he hasn't changed back into a spirit to join Emily in the afterlife. It turns out the kiln didn't kill them all the way. They've come back. And now that the spell book has been opened, there's a giant beam that's essentially that version of dropping a pin to their exact location. So then the witches hunt them down at the house. They break the house into several pieces, which that's got to be rough when the parents get home the next morning.
Because my favorite part is they're in the house, and she's like, we're doomed, we can't find book. And Mary's like, let's go look out the window. And she's like, goodbye, world.
Oh, bye-bye, world.
Goodbye. And then all of a sudden she's like, look.
Yeah, because she's like, you want to hit me? And she goes, eh. And she's like, you feel better now?
It's the drama of the three, and they're just the energy that they give to one another. I love it.
That's true. I love. They're just in the first movie for sure. They are a perfect trio of girls.
So I've got one more fun fact about this first film, and it concerns Sarah Jessica Parker in real life. So she was shocked to discover in 2004 that her 10th great-grandmother, Esther Elwell, was arrested in Salem, Massachusetts in the late 1600s for committing sundry acts of witchcraft and choking a neighbor to death.
I mean, I've been there before.
Esther's case never went to court. She escaped with her life, and the accusation ended the Salem witch trials.
Huh.
It's a lot of greats. I was trying to math out the generations in my head, and I was not doing well.
So that's probably about as much that we're going to dive into for the first film. Should we go to a commercial?
Yeah. Let's go to a commercial.
We should do a commercial. It's time.
Now, this is probably the most important commercial of the show so far. So take a really good fucking listen and listen to our warning during this commercial. Enjoy.
And now for a word from our sponsor, spoilers.
Are you tired of opening your milk and getting this horrid smell because you're a lazy slob who can't clean out their fridge? Are you tired of your friend's shitty spoiled kid being a spoiled little bastard all the time? Are you tired of getting life-threatening food poisoning after a cookout where you left your food sitting in the hot sun for several hours? Well, fear no more. We have the new Spoiler Alert product for you. It's a simple bracelet you can wear on your wrist or ankle that emits a small electric shock and screams, "Spoiler Alert!" so you no longer have to deal with that pesky little kid. As he comes running up, you immediately hear, "Spoil Alert!" and you'll immediately know to run. And it also helps with movies. If the bracelet senses your friend is about to spoil an entire movie or episode of a show, it'll not only shock and warn you, it'll emit a line of energy on their mouth that quickly mutes their next phrase. To help prevent us from being muted, we're warning you ahead of time. This next portion of the show contains spoilers from the Hocus Pocus 2 movie that just released September 30th on Disney+. If you prefer not to hear this part, you may try to skip ahead to the end. Or pause, watch the movie, and restart. But seriously, guys, this is a legit spoiler alert warning. Don't let us ruin this movie for you. So hop online and order your spoiler alert bracelet today for that pesky little bastard neighbor kid that you can't stand.
All right, I hope you guys really enjoyed that commercial. It's very, very important.
That's right, guys. This is full of spoilers.
If you're still here, you've either seen the sequel or you didn't listen because you're a naughty little beardo.
You're so naughty.
Either way, you get one final warning. Spoilers are ahead. All right, let's get into it.
The opening to movie 2 was probably my favorite opening to a movie in a long time.
It was done so well. I didn't think I was going to like it. And then the children who played the Sanderson sisters absolutely fucking nailed the mannerisms.
That's right. The opening of the second film were taken back to their younger days in Salem as three young sisters before they were witches.
Talk about a perfect scene, a perfect opening for a film. I mean, if that didn't get you interested in the film, then I don't know what's wrong with you.
I was immediately hooked because they just... nailed the characters so well. It was very much like I had watched the characters age down.
If they did a spin-off of just that part of the young Sanderson sisters, I would watch it religiously, because I loved that. They could do a spin-off of modern day and I probably wouldn't enjoy it as much. The little ones love it.
Yeah, if they did a spin-off of the modern day witches, I wouldn't watch it. It'd just be like Charmed.
Yeah. So it opens with this scene where a young Winifred has been banished from Salem by Reverend Trask after she defied the authority of the church by refusing to an arranged marriage to John Pritchett.
She wanted to marry Billy Butcherson because they had their kiss in the graveyard.
Because they had one kiss by the lake.
It was only a kiss. It was only a kiss.
No, in the graveyard.
Oh, was it the graveyard? Oh, okay, yeah. They had one kiss in the graveyard.
And then that beautiful witch that they ran into.
So Winifred, using her always reasonable attitude, just bursts through the town and goes into the house with her sisters, where they are then the townspeople converge on their house and try to expunge them from the house. So instead of letting Mary and Sarah be taken away from her, Winifred escapes with them to a nearby forbidden forest, and that is where they make the acquaintance of the Mother Witch, who thinks that she's just going to suck their souls up, and then she's like, wait a minute, these girls are different.
They are different.
This one smells like a witch.
Which raises questions about why Winifred and, like, Mary didn't smell that on the, what is her name? Becca, right?
Yeah, the main protagonist.
She did hit her 16th birthday that day, which Winifred also hit her 16th birthday that day, so they should have smelled it on Becca.
Yeah, that's
You're
what I would
right.
have thought as well. Maybe the Mother Witch had done you know what? Maybe she had cast the Magica Maxima spell, and that's why she was alone. And that was why she warned Winifred about it.
Oh.
And maybe only witches who cast that spell can detect other witches.
That makes sense.
That would make a lot of sense, because
Yeah.
she very much warned against it and said, because I said so.
Yes. And Book didn't like it either.
Book was like,
Well, Mother Witch also teaches the sisters to kill other children to keep their youthfulness. So if they do make a series, that's a series I want to watch.
Mother Witch was also very pretty.
Yes, she was.
Well, so fun fact, at the end of Hocus Pocus 2, I don't know if you guys noticed, but as they're leaving the graveyard, you can see the bird, whatever type of corvid that Mother Witch transformed into,
Oh, yeah.
in the graveyard as they leave. So implying that she's still around. Yep.
Mm.
Did you also happen to go back really quickly and catch the little scene after the credits?
I did not.
No.
I've heard about it.
I came home Saturday and watched it with my other friends, and basically it's the black cat gets up on a shelf, and there's a box on the shelf that says, I think it's BF candle number 2.
Oh.
I don't know. I don't know if you could really run with a third. Like, I don't know. I don't know if that premise holds up a second time, you know?
Well, is it gonna bring them back again? The same Sanderson sisters?
That's it. And my theory is they're leaving room for potential for a sequel if this receives, real well to the public. If not, then you can just think to yourself, oh man, he made another candle, so something else could happen. Or if they end up wanting to make a sequel, they'll be like, we left room for that.
I don't know. I don't know if I would go for a third, I don't know if I could go for that same premise another time, because it feels like they're setting it up.
I was extremely nervous for this sequel, because I struggle a lot with sequels that they bring back, especially decades later, because it seems like they try too hard. And this was shockingly enjoyable.
It was really good. I had so much fun watching it.
Well, it's fun that you bring up that fact about a second black flame candle being made by Gilbert, because that brings me to our next topic about the second film, which is Salem present day, and, the characters of the second film. So there's 3 protagonists in this film, and their names are Becca, Izzy, and Cassie. And now they've all been friends forever, and then Becca and Izzy have kind of fallen off track with Cassie because Cassie got a new boyfriend.
And he's dumb, but he's kind of cute.
And so she's cool now, and she doesn't have time to spend with them. But of course, bad communication through friends, the wires are crossed. Cassie thinks that they're mad at her. Becca and Izzy think that Cassie are mad at them. So then it's a whole thing of like, oh, they don't want to talk to us anymore. That is a little tired of a premise, but you got to do something, right?
Classic teenage miscommunication.
There is always something to be said for representation in film at any age, and putting more queer coded characters into a film like this would be a great thing to do. Because I feel like we get like Sam Richardson's character who feels mildly queer coded.
Well, then there was the very spontaneous scene where they were flying across looking for people. They looked in the window at somebody watching the original.
That was
Hocus
fun.
Pocus, and it was a little gay couple on the couch.
Oh yeah, that's right. It was the gay couple. So then you had the gay couple. It feels very much like Disney representation, which is kind of
like, look, we acknowledge this. All right, bye.
It's very true and good that they acknowledge that in the film, because the first film is very, very popular in the queer community because it's got all the things of a cult classic that our community latches onto. And then I can't tell you how many drag queens I've seen do Winifred.
They had the entire competition scene, that's right, of drag queens dressing up as the Sanderson sisters.
Right.
I forgot about that.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, there were drag queens in this movie. Wow, I forgot about that.
I know, that just popped in my head. I was like, wait a minute.
It's fun that we talk about the creator of the second Black Flame candle, because that was created by Gilbert, who owns the magic shop, which is in the Sanderson sisters' old cabin.
Fucking hot. He is so hot. Hot. Oh my God.
Gilbert is a total babe. He came on screen and I was like, what's this?
The way I would tear that cable knit sweater off that man.
Are you wearing tweed?
And once again, you guys already know this, but we don't sexualize the actual actors as people on this podcast, but characters are definitely ripe for the picking.
Fair game.
Fair game.
Goddamn, Gilbert's so hot.
Yes, he is. Oof. I want him to light me up like that Black Flame candle. I want to see his Black Flame.
I always do like his quirky. Every show, he's always kind of a quirky,
like kind of a
smart but silly guy.
A bumbly kind of like a yeah.
Yeah. And so I always like all of his characters. They're always kind of enlightening.
And I think that is like the go-to for him. But oh my God. And he's I say bookstore owner. He owns a magic shop. Ugh. Absolutely. A+. 100% my type.
I want him to put a spell on me.
Oh God, if he would have owned a plant shop, I would have been all over him. Or a cheesecake factory. He has a cheesecake and plant shop, and I would just be like, let's get married.
He only practices a little bit of the dark arts.
And then he makes me soup.
in like the cauldron. So he's like,
But it's actually a crock pot.
It's loaded potato.
It's a crock pot, and Jay's like, no, you're not supposed to touch it.
You leave it for 6 hours on low.
You leave the lid on. Stop taking the lid off and checking things in your crock pot.
Stop it.
And then another interesting present-day Salem character I'd like to touch on is the mayor.
Oh, Tony Hale.
Because he is actually the descendant of the pastor from the opening scene, which I thought was a fun fact to include, which I thought was a fun little detail they did.
We heavily theorized early in this movie as we were watching it that Tony Hale's character would actually be the Reverend still. Yeah. And he would somehow like loop into the story that he was like a warlock. But unfortunately, that wasn't the case.
Which we were close, but not quite.
No, I think it was good of them to avoid that, because if they had, it would have been a little too much, because there was already kind of a lot going on in the movie.
Yeah.
There ended up being a lot.
He was your great small town little mayor. He was obsessed with one thing, and that was getting his caramel apple at the fair. He wanted his candy apple.
I really liked the mayor because he was so absurd and silly. But like, I think my favorite part was when he gets home from the festival they're putting on downtown. He's had to buy this like horrible like candy apple from Walgreens, and because he finally got his candy apple and it got stolen from him by hypnotized people.
Oh yes.
Yeah, and so then the shop that he wanted it from was out, and so he gets home. He's had this whole really bad day.
Like, it's the worst time for him.
Well, he opens up his garage to find 3 adult women trapped in a salt circle. And what does he do? He complains to his children, and then he proceeds to go inside, and we never see him again.
Never see him again.
I was like, Madam, your garage door is still open.
And I want you to know, when he was standing in line and got the call about his daughter holding a party, he turns around and asks for them to hold his place in line. And it was a person dressed as a devil, and the wife
had the curlers from the first one
that had the stuff in her hair. So from the first movie.
Yes.
So, and then it's kind of hard to catch if you're not really paying attention. But when you get back, he's looking for his place in line. And he looks over, and they're sitting down eating an apple, and he's like, traitors.
Those are the best kind of little Easter eggs in a film.
I can't name the last time I've eaten a candy apple.
I kind of want one now.
Those candied apples looked so delicious. I kept seeing them, and I was like, I kind of want to eat that apple.
I'm kind of looking for one now this time of year, because I really want to eat one again.
Okay, well, it's cool that you talked about the scene where he comes home and finds him in the salt circle, because that brings us to my very last topic, the unsung hero of the both films, the brooms themselves. So, the very central theme of both of the films is that the Sanderson sisters have been brought back from the dead. So, instead of having their own personal brooms, they have to kind of find brooms in the wild. In the first film, Winifred has a very realistic broom because it's from the museum. So then they're like, what are we going to fly? So they look in the janitor's closet, and Sarah finds your standard janitorial broom.
Her mop.
Was it a mop, or was it an actual... I thought it was a broom.
It was definitely a mop.
Winifred has the broom in both movies, and then Sarah and Mary have to sort of like compromise, right?
And Sarah finds that floppy old mop.
Right.
And Mary finds that big, old-fashioned, clunky vacuum.
And the light is working, even though it's not plugged in, and then it makes noise because she uses her magic and throws it between her legs and just flies around on the vacuum, which is a fun plot device in the first one because that's how they kind of catch her, because they're using the cord, and that's how they hold her back.
Normally, I turn it on and I throw it between my legs too and let it do its job.
It sweeps back and forth too.
And that sounds right. But my favorite part is in the movie is whenever she takes off, you actually hear it running. It's like...
And then in the second film...
But in movie number 2...
So they're at Walgreens, and then Winifred finds a old-fashioned, old-timey witch's broom again from a store display, but there's only one. Sarah finds a Swiffer wet jet, which is a little bit of fun product placement, but also relevant because it's a mop again, right? So it's a modern mop.
Yeah.
And then, again, a modern broom. Mary finds a pair of Roombas, or as she affectionately calls them, broomies. It's so cute. And they have a red light because her color is red. So they light up red.
Well, I was just saying my favorite part about those broomies is how they actually play a couple integral parts in the film.
Yes.
Later on. So it's funny how in both films they did a good job of taking Mary's piece, or Mary's flight method, and utilizing it to either hurt or benefit them.
As a plot point.
Yeah.
Which is really interesting because you think in that scene where they're in the garage that Tony Hale's character is going to be, the mayor is going to be the one to break the circle.
He's going to set him free, but no.
But no, it's not. It's the broomies. It's those little Roombas that pull up.
She's like, look, they hate mess. And they just like start eating the salt. And it's so, they're like little pets.
They come climbing up the driveway and they start eating the salt because it's a mess on the floor. So they're doing their job too. And I gotta say, I need that brand because I need that strength in a Roomba. That battery life, that power.
Mine like fight me after 2 hours. I get a notice on my phone all the time like, oh, critical battery. And I'm like, what? Mary flies on hers.
Or we have a step down into our living room and it'll get stuck on there sometimes. I'm just like, the Broombies would never.
The Broomies would get right over it.
The Broomies would be like, oh, that's cute.
They would fly over it, obviously. But obviously these are enchanted Roombas, so we can't have high expectations of our Roombas.
Oh, that's true. They are enchanted.
Yes.
Those broomies were fantastic because that was a pretty hefty, like, thick pile of salt that they were cleaning up, and they did it pristine.
That was a thick driveway, too. They were coming up this rocky driveway. Yeah.
Yeah. Remember they were eating popcorn at one point?
Yeah, listen, our Roomba runs once in the kitchen, and immediately afterwards, it's like, Roomba's finished the job, and its bin is full.
Yeah. Oh my god, yeah.
We need Mary to enchant our Roombas so they can do the job right.
I'm going to call Kathy Najimy right now.
She's actually covering our lunch break, so I don't think she can pick up.
She's We've left the sisters in the market.
Boop! Kathy Najimy, could you come back to the break room, please? Kathy Najimy?
Sarah's in aisle 4, swiffering up the pile of spilled wine.
I really will say, though, this movie was so much better than I expected it to be. And I think, and I can't tell if it's because my expectations were low.
I was very
or if
worried.
it's because it genuinely is a great movie.
I panic about sequels so much.
I had so much fun watching it, even though Joe kept interrupting us.
Oh yeah, we did watch this all together.
Yeah, we all watched this together, by the way. Finally, like a fucking family for once.
I drove my little happy hiney up to Tulsa and stayed the night and watched this cute little precious film.
I came into it with very low expectations, and even just after the opening, I was like, this movie is going to be a lot of fun. And it proved to be 100% right.
Yeah.
It was very enjoyable from start to finish. It was really interesting to see the Sanderson sisters get some sort of character development, not only to get additional backstory on them as children, but also to see Winifred's, like, her priority really was always her sisters.
Yeah, that was a great way to end it for me. That was actually a really touching scene, too.
I thought maybe because I was drunk at your guys' house that's why it made me more sad. But watching it even the next night, completely sober, still just as sad.
I don't get sad a lot at movies, but that one really
Well, it's Bette
hit me.
Midler.
Yeah, well, yeah, that's true. I got a soft spot for Bette Midler. She's just so wonderful.
Yeah, she really is.
She played that part so perfectly, being so happy to realize that she could still be with her sisters. And it was, that kind of makes my heart.
I'm getting a little weepy thinking about it right now, actually.
I am, like, I kind of just got that little soft spot in my heart where I was like, oh, okay, we're going to have to move to a game or else I'm literally going to start crying.
No tears in the break room.
Because, like, I'm thinking about the scene and I'm just like...
Oh, the tears are reserved for aisle 4.
Yes. So you can't cry about Winifred until you go back on shift.
Jay, do you have something to check out for us this week?
Yes, I need a distraction, something to check out.
This is a good one, you guys.
I will talk about our friend Aaron Choi. And Aaron...
Hello, Aaron.
Hi, Aaron.
Aaron's our friend who likes to... Hello, Aaron! He likes to do our drawings, and if you notice watching our YouTube video at the end, you'll see the drawing he did for us, and we absolutely love that. That was adorable. Aaron is quite the little dude because he is in Aladdin the Musical, and they are working right now, and you can buy tickets at aladdinthemusical.com and find out where all they're at, and that's exciting. And on top of that, since as you've seen his drawing on our YouTube page, or maybe our TikTok that I made, if you go to Aaron's Illustration Insta, so at Aaron's Illustration Insta, is where you can see his personal drawings he does. So go support him. He's quickly become a good friend of ours, and we really appreciate it. And I know he's been dealing with COVID lately, but he's doing well now. Super talented. We love chatting with him. We love keeping up with him, and we love hearing from him. He's one of our people who are very close to us, and we like that. So thank you, Aaron. If you're watching the YouTube video, let's go ahead and just put up, during my talk here, our little pinups he did. And that was pretty fun.
They are very saucy, and I am very flattered.
I love it. I'm here for it. These pinup drawings he did, I was super flattered.
I'm super flattered because, boy, do I look better than I really do. But but Aaron just sent those to us the day before we recorded this.
I'll say I've ridden some very big noodles in my lifetime. That's the biggest noodle I've ever seen myself on top of.
I like how we sexualized a bag of wine for me, and I'm all for it. All right, Joe, is it time for our game?
It's time for a game, and we are going back to a utter classic on this channel. We're doing another round of Fuck, Marry, Kill, and you might be able to guess, but I'll just let you guys know, we are doing the Sanderson sisters themselves. So, while you guys think a little bit, I did a little bit of thinking a few minutes ago, and I drafted my choices. So, I'll go in order of Fuck, Marry, Kill. So, first, I'm going to fuck Sarah Sanderson, because those titties are just rocking. She can sing. She's beautiful. She's enchanting. She's a little dumb sometimes. And you know what? Just gonna get it out of the way. And then I'm going to marry Winifred because of her power, her intelligence that sometimes goes unappreciated, in my opinion. And I just think she's a powerhouse. I just think she'd be a great partner to go on with. We could be evil together. She'd be great rides on the broomstick so I could save money on Southwest tickets. Yeah, I'm going to marry Winifred.
Is that what you're writing the broomstick for?
Yeah. And then I'm going to go ahead and sorry, I'm going to kill Mary because I just don't know if I would like Scrod. I'm going to put her in the kiln over and over and over again until the spell has worn off. Sorry, Mary. That's it for me.
I feel like I'm going to do very similar to you. I am going to fuck Sarah because, yeah, she's got rockin' tits.
Oh my God, just unbelievable.
And just, but I also feel like I don't want to like deal with her afterwards.
Amok, 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 amok.
Right, and I don't want to deal with that. I would lose my fucking mind if I had to deal with that. I am going to marry Winifred because I do feel like that would be closer to a marriage of equals, if that makes sense.
It'd be like your version of Bayonetta. You'd marry her too, right?
Right. Oh God. I that wouldn't be a marriage of equals. I would be totally like the lesser person in that relationship. Bayonetta. But yeah, I mean the same thing. Winifred's got, she's got power. She's got eternal youth, basically. And if she can give me some of that right now, that would be kind of nice.
You need it.
Right, exactly. And then I'm gonna kill Mary. I'm sorry, Mary. I can't find any positives there aside from being able to smell children before you see them. And that would be a great way to avoid kids, but it's not so much of a pro that I'm willing to do anything else for it.
That's valid.
I am going a little bit of a different route.
What? I can't believe it.
And I know. And I am going to, God, this feels so cringy. I'm going to fuck Winifred because, I don't know, the power move.
Mm-hmm. You want to find out what that mouth can do?
Yeah, exactly.
This is how you end up as Billy Butcherson.
I want to, pretty much, I want to deal with her calling card, the teeth. Yeah. And then I'm gonna marry Mary because she always suggests a calming circle, and God knows.
Oh, yeah.
Sometimes I get so worked up, I really need the break. And she'll be like, we should do a calming circle. And I'll be like, you're right.
That's true. That's very true.
And then I'm going to kill Sarah because almost too annoyingly dumb.
Yeah, I can see that.
Great tits, but just too dumb. And I even...
That's what it says on my LinkedIn. Great tits, but just too dumb.
Even sexually, I need to be able to have a brief conversation with them before or after, I don't know. And then when she's just running around going, amok, 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 amok,
Amok, amok, amok.
I'm like, quit.
She'd be like, 'tis firm. And you'd be like, get out of here.
That's its job. I don't have erectile dysfunction yet. But Anthony, on top of that, I have been called by some of your recruiters as a reference, and I also am like, he's very
Great tits,
he's got great tits,
but too dumb.
but he's dumb.
That's why he's the stock boy.
A stock boy.
Stock boy! I love him, but he's dumb.
So I think I hear the music coming back on.
Oh, which, if anyone didn't notice last week, we kind of swapped up our music.
We like it, and we hope you guys do too.
We were getting flagged with some music on that, and we love this.
It was technically royalty free, but I think we feel a lot better about having the rights to the music.
The royalty rights to this. So we hope you enjoy this new music because we enjoy it a lot.
We enjoy it too. Yeah, it's wonderful.
I cast a spell and I found it.
And now it's mine.
And if the spell at the beginning of this episode didn't convince you, you need to make sure you go and give us your 5-star review and write a review. We would love to hear from you. We've gotten a few now, and we are really enjoying reading those. And make sure you're subscribing to us on any source you possibly can. Catch us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, all the other podcast places, I can't talk, and YouTube.
Yes, and email us at beardsandsundries@gmail.com. We want your feedback. We want your input. We want game ideas.
We also truly enjoy this ourselves. We love to listen to it the next day and watch the videos ourselves, and we make ourselves enjoy it too. This isn't just a fake pet project for us. We really do enjoy making this, and we hope you guys like it as much as we do.
Ooh, spoiler, it's been fake the whole time. None of these episodes exist. Ooh.
Oh, we started this so we could keep a better bond between the three of us living in different cities, and it's been a lot of fun. I'll say that the emails that we do get weekly from some of our very loyal listeners are... Excuse me.
Jay's dying.
He's getting broken up already.
He's getting so
Almost
worked
threw
up.
there for a minute.
He's getting so worked up about these emails.
Let me try that again. I will say that some of the emails we get from some of our very loyal listeners are extremely enjoyed.
Yes.
And we love to hear from you, and keep sending those. We like those a lot. Because we hear from George and Anthony in San Antonio weekly, basically. And that is fun.
I get weekly reviews too from some of our listeners, and it really lights up
It's
my
really
day.
nice. It really makes my heart happy to know that we're doing this and people are enjoying it.
So we love you.
We love you.
Ah,
Goodbye.
we'll see you next lunch break, Beardos. We love you so much. Until next time, mwah. Enjoy the rest of your week.